7 useless tasks. Seniors should avoid introduction to the problem declutter. Did you know that most people waste more time decluttering than actually making progress? It's frustrating, right? You spend hours sorting, shifting, and organizing, yet somehow the clutter never really goes away. Meet Carol, 68. She had the best intentions, determined to finally clear out years of accumulated stuff. But after days of effort, she looked around and realized nothing had really changed. Why? Because she was focusing on tasks that felt productive, but were actually a waste of time. And she's not alone. Many seniors make these same decluttering mistakes without even realizing it. So today we're exposing 7 useless tasks that drain your energy and what to do instead. Sorting every single item before making decisions. Instead, let's start with the first mistake, one that almost everyone falls for. Number 1, sorting every single item before making decisions. Carol thought she had the perfect plan. She set aside an entire weekend to declutter her home, believing that if she just organized everything into neat categories, books in one pile, clothes in another, old papers in a separate stack, she'd finally regain control over her space. But after hours of effort, all she had was more piles. Instead of feeling accomplished, she felt completely drained. Does this sound familiar? You start sorting, but before you know it, you're knee-deep in a sea of items, paralyzed by decisions and mentally exhausted. That's because sorting before deciding is one of the biggest decluttering mistakes seniors make, and it's completely unnecessary. Why it's useless? When you focus on categorizing first, you're using up your energy without actually making progress. It feels productive, but all it does is create more visual clutter and decision fatigue. The more choices you give yourself, the harder it becomes to take action. Instead of clearing things out, you're simply shifting them around, making decluttering feel endless and overwhelming. And let's be honest, once you've spent all that time sorting, you're too tired to actually get rid of anything. That's how clutter continues to pile up. The better approach, the quick pass method. If you want to declutter efficiently without getting stuck, you need a faster way to make decisions. That's where the quick pass method comes in. Instead of sorting everything into categories first, go through your space and make instant choices about each item. Keep. If you use it regularly and it serves a clear purpose in your life, it stays. Let go. If it's broken, unused, or doesn't add value, it goes. Unsure? Box it up. If you're hesitant, place it in a box. Set a reminder for 30 days. If you haven't needed it by then, you won't miss it. This method keeps you moving forward instead of getting stuck in the sorting trap. No more endless piles, no more decision fatigue. Just a clearer space, faster. Have you ever spent hours sorting only to feel like nothing changed? Let us know in the comments. Number 2, holding on to just-in-case items. Carol hesitated as she held an old sewing kit in her hands. She hadn't sewn anything in years. But what if she needed to mend something? Then she glanced at the stack of extra blankets in her closet, just in case guests ever needed them, and the pile of mismatched Tupperware lids. Well, what if she found their missing containers one day? Before she knew it, Carol had convinced herself to keep dozens of things she never actually used. And just like that, her clutter stayed exactly where it was. Does this sound familiar? The just-in-case mindset is one of the biggest reasons seniors struggle to declutter, because every item starts to feel like a potential need. Why it's useless? Here's the hard truth: just in case usually never comes. Think about it. How often have you actually needed that old blender that's missing a part, or those extra cables you kept, convinced they'd be useful someday? The reality is, most of these hypothetical situations never happen. Instead, they take up valuable space in your home, making it harder to find the things you do use. Worse, they create clutter anxiety, that uneasy feeling that you should keep things even when you know you probably won't use them. This keeps you trapped in a cycle of holding on to stuff instead of enjoying a clutter-free, stress-free home. The better approach, the 1-year rule. If you're struggling to let go of just-in-case items, try this simple rule. If you haven't used it in the last year, it's time to let it go. Why a year? Because it covers every season, holiday, and life situation. If something hasn't been needed in all that time, the chances of you suddenly needing it later are slim. Here's how to apply it. Be honest with yourself. Ask, when was the last time I actually used this? If you can't remember, that's your answer. Limit sentimental loopholes. It's easy to convince yourself that certain items might be special, but if they're collecting dust, they aren't serving a purpose. Use the borrow or replace mindset. If you do end up needing something in the future, could you borrow it? Could you replace it affordably? Most of the time, the answer is yes. Think about your clutter right now. How much of it is truly being used versus how much is there just in case? Letting go isn't about getting rid of everything. It's about keeping only what serves you today. What's one just-in-case item you've been holding on to? Share it in the comments. Organizing before decluttering. Carol stood in the aisle of a home goods store, staring at rows of plastic storage bins, baskets, and drawer organizers. She had seen countless videos about getting organized, and this seemed like the perfect solution. So she filled her cart with neatly labeled containers, confident that this would finally bring order to her home. But weeks later, despite stacking, sorting, and labeling, her space still felt cluttered. The truth hit her. She had organized her clutter instead of eliminating it. And she's not alone. Many seniors fall into this trap, thinking that buying storage solutions is the key to decluttering. But in reality, it often makes things worse. Organizing before decluttering is like rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. It creates the illusion of tidiness, but the real problem, too much stuff, remains. Here's why this approach doesn't work. It makes clutter look acceptable. Neatly stacked boxes may look better, but they still contain things you don't need. Instead of solving the problem, you're just hiding it. It encourages hoarding. Storage bins give you permission to keep more than necessary. Instead of questioning whether you truly need something, you justify keeping it because it fits in the box. It wastes time and money. Buying storage solutions can be expensive, yet they don't actually reduce the amount of stuff in your home. In many cases, they just add to the clutter. Carol realized she'd spent more time and effort organizing than actually letting go of things. And once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. Instead of organizing clutter, focus on eliminating it first. Here's how. Start with a decluttering mindset. Before thinking about storage, ask, do I truly need this? If not, it goes. Use the one-touch rule. Pick up an item once and make a decision. Keep, donate, or toss. Don't move it to a different spot just to deal with it later. Organize only what's essential. Once you've removed what you don't need, then, and only then, find a storage system that fits your reduced belongings. Carol followed this method and was amazed. She no longer needed all those bins, baskets, and organizers because she had cleared out the excess first. Ask yourself, are you organizing clutter or are you truly decluttering? The difference will change how your home feels. Have you ever bought storage bins thinking they'd fix clutter, only to realize they didn't? Tell us in the comments. Keeping items out of guilt or obligation. Carol sat in her living room staring at a bulky armchair she had inherited from her parents. It didn't match her decor, and she never actually sat in it. But every time she thought about getting rid of it, guilt crept in. Then there was the set of fine china she had received as a wedding gift decades ago, used maybe twice but taking up an entire cabinet. And the pile of Christmas sweaters from her grandchildren, each one gifted with love but never worn. She knew she didn't need these things, yet parting with them felt wrong. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many seniors hold on to items not because they need them, but because they feel obligated to keep them. Whether it's a gift, an heirloom, or something tied to a past memory. These possessions can turn into emotional baggage. Keeping things out of guilt doesn't honor the person who gave them to you. It only burdens you. Here's why. It weighs you down emotionally. Every time you see these items, you feel a mix of emotions, guilt for not using them, stress over the space they take up, or sadness from memories attached to them. It takes up valuable space. Your home should be filled with things you love and use, not things you keep out of obligation. The meaning isn't in the item. A gift from a loved one carries sentimental value, but the true memory is in your heart. not in the object itself. Carol finally realized something. Keeping something just because it was a gift doesn't mean she's ungrateful. Letting go of it wouldn't erase the love or memories tied to it. If an item brings you joy or is genuinely useful, keep it. If not, here's what you can do. Take a photo before letting go. Capture the memory without keeping the physical object. A digital photo takes up no space but still holds sentimental value. Reframe the meaning. Ask yourself, would the person who gave this to me want it to be a burden? Most likely the answer is no. Pass it on with love. If an heirloom or gift doesn't serve you, consider giving it to someone who will truly appreciate it. A family member, friend, or charity may cherish it far more than you do. Carol took pictures of the sentimental items she wanted to remember and donated what she no longer needed. She felt relief instead of guilt. Her home finally reflected her life, not the expectations of others. Look around your home. How many things are you keeping simply because you feel you should? Imagine the freedom of letting them go while still holding on to the memories. What's one item you've been keeping out of guilt? Tell us in the comments. Decluttering without a system. Carol woke up one morning, determined to declutter. She started in the bedroom, tossing old clothes into a donation bag. Then she wandered into the kitchen and pulled out mismatched mugs. On her way to put something in the garage, she got distracted by a stack of old magazines. After hours of effort, her home looked the same. Frustrated, she collapsed onto the couch. Why did decluttering feel so exhausting but accomplish so little? Because she had no system. Many seniors make this mistake, jumping from one area to another without a plan. It feels productive at first, but by the end of the day, there's no real progress. Just half-finished piles everywhere. Why it's useless decluttering randomly leads to burnout and frustration. Without seeing results, it's easy to lose motivation and give up halfway. Decision fatigue sets in. Jumping between different categories forces your brain to switch focus constantly, making decisions harder. A bigger mess often results. Starting multiple areas at once often means things get pulled out but not put back, leaving your home looking worse than before. Carol had learned the hard way. Decluttering needs a system. The better approach. Work smarter, not harder. Instead of tackling clutter randomly, use a structured method that keeps you on track and ensures real progress. Here are 2 proven approaches. 1. The one room at a time method. Pick a single room and complete it before moving on. Start with easy spaces like the bathroom before tackling sentimental areas like the attic. Seeing one space completely decluttered will motivate you to keep going. 2. The category-based method, inspired by Marie Kondo. Instead of rooms, declutter by category. Clothes first, then books, then kitchenware, etc. This helps you see exactly how much you have and make better decisions. It prevents duplicate items from being scattered across multiple rooms. Carol decided to use the category-based method, starting with clothes. In just one afternoon, she had 4 full bags ready for donation. She felt energized because she could see real progress. If you've struggled with decluttering before, ask yourself, was I following a system or just moving things around? A clear method makes all the difference. Which method do you prefer? One room at a time or category-based? Let us know in the overthinking, the what if I regret it? Dilemma. Carol stood in front of an old wooden cabinet filled with things she hadn't touched in years. Old gadgets, clothes that no longer fit, and trinkets collecting dust. She picked up a barely used bread maker and thought, what if I need this one day? This hesitation is what keeps so many seniors stuck in clutter. The fear of regret. Why it's useless holding on to items because of what-if scenarios creates unnecessary stress and prevents real progress. Here's why this mindset is more harmful than helpful. Regret is rare. Studies show that people rarely miss what they declutter. Instead, they feel relief and freedom. Most things are replaceable. If you ever need something again, you can borrow, rent, or buy a secondhand replacement. Clutter steals space and energy. Keeping things out of fear means your home stays crowded, making daily life less enjoyable. Carol realized she wasn't keeping things because she needed them. She was keeping them because she was afraid of making the wrong choice. The better approach. A simple decluttering rule to break free from overthinking. Use a clear decision-making rule. Here's what works best. The "does it add value today" rule. Ask yourself, does this item improve my life right now? If yes, keep it. If no, let it go. This stops you from clinging to someday items that never actually get used. The 1-year test. If you haven't used it in the last 12 months, it's safe to say you won't need it. For sentimental items, take a picture before letting go. It keeps the memory without the clutter. Carol put the bread maker in the donation pile. If she ever needed one again, she could easily find another. But for now, it was just taking up space. As she continued, she felt lighter. The fear of regret faded because she knew she was making thoughtful, intentional choices. If you're holding on to something because of what-if thoughts, ask yourself, is this item making my life better today? Or is it just taking up space? What's the hardest item for you to let go of? Share in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Trying to declutter everything at once. Carol woke up one morning determined to clear out years of accumulated clutter. She started in the bedroom, then moved to the kitchen, then the garage. Before she knew it, she was surrounded by piles of stuff, feeling drained and frustrated. After hours of effort, her home looked worse than before, and she had barely made a dent. Sound familiar? Many seniors fall into this trap, thinking decluttering has to be done all at once. But instead of progress, it leads to exhaustion and disappointment. Why it's useless. Decluttering is a marathon, not a sprint. Trying to tackle everything in one go leads to burnout, making it harder to finish. Decision fatigue sets in. The brain can only handle so many choices before it starts making poor ones, or giving up completely. It's easy to quit halfway. Big, overwhelming tasks make it tempting to say, "I'll finish this later." But later often never comes. Carol learned the hard way, decluttering should be a habit, not a one-time event. The better approach, small wins, big results. Instead of overwhelming yourself, set small, achievable goals that build momentum over time. 1. The 15-minute rule. Set a timer for just 15 minutes. Declutter one small area, like a drawer or a shelf. Stop when the timer goes off. If you have energy, do another round. If not, you've still made progress. This method keeps you motivated and prevents exhaustion. 2. The one drawer at a time strategy. Instead of tearing apart an entire room, pick one small section to declutter completely. Example: today, clean out the junk drawer. Tomorrow, tackle a shelf in the closet. In just a few weeks, your home will feel significantly lighter, without the stress. Carol tried the 15-minute rule. On the first day, she cleared out one shelf in her pantry. The next day, she tackled a kitchen drawer. By the end of the week, she had made real progress without feeling overwhelmed. Decluttering doesn't have to be all or nothing. Small, consistent steps lead to lasting change. Do you prefer decluttering in short bursts or tackling bigger projects? Let us know in the comments. Conclusion and call to action. Decluttering shouldn't feel like a never-ending struggle. It should feel freeing, not frustrating. The secret? Avoiding the tasks that waste time and focusing on real progress. Carol learned this the hard way. She used to spend hours sorting, hesitating over just-in-case items, and trying to organize clutter instead of letting go. But once she stopped overcomplicating things and made quick, confident decisions, her home finally felt lighter and stress-free. Now she doesn't waste time rearranging clutter, she removes it. She doesn't let guilt keep her stuck. She keeps only what truly matters. And instead of trying to declutter everything at once, she takes it one step at a time. The result? A home that finally reflects the peaceful, clutter-free life she always wanted. Now it's your turn. Start small. Let go of what no longer serves you. And remember, progress is better than perfection. If this helped, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this today.